It was an experiment designed to test the peace between our nations. There was a world rich in resources where our borders met. The soil was nurturing, and below that, the bedrock held many valuables and needed ores. We were peaceful in our coexistence, but little else. We created no trouble toward the humans or their allied races. They returned their favor to us, yet we did not mix. My family and I were returning to our settlement after a day in town to purchase supplies and enjoy a few simple luxuries like a steam spa. We were in the wild, as we called it. The road was exposed and hardened soil. Most colonists from both sides used wheel vehicles for their easier maintenance over hovertech. My family was no exception. Children, keep an eye out for hornbucks. It is their mating season, and I don't know about you, but your mother is enough for me, I stated. I meant to purchase brighter forward lights for our vehicle, but in my relaxation from the steam, it elapsed from my thoughts. Behave, right? Kids, keep an eye out, but don't worry. Hornbucks avoid roads. My spouse never announced as she playfully struck my shoulder. We still had a couple hours until we reached the settlement of our farm. I was looking forward to the first harvest. Jula trees grew very well here and provided vital nutrients back into the soil. After this harvest, I planned on shifting my land to Sinopril. Father, stop! My daughter yelled. A hornbucker ran in front of us. I swerved to avoid it, and we landed forward first into a dry creek bed. Is everyone okay? I asked. I'm okay, my spouse answered. Me too, my daughter replied. Me free, my son stated. We got out to inspect the damage. The vehicle was intact, but the rear drive wheels were off the ground. We were stuck. I grabbed our communication device, and no satellites were in orbit. Well, none of ours. I could call out on a Terran satellite, but didn't want to risk any trouble. Well, we're stuck until we can call for help. It's late, so children can go to sleep. We'll make a bundle for you two, I explained. Neva and I took a couple blankets out of the cargo compartment and made a simple sleeping bundle for the children. I told them a story of my survival test when I was at the age of adulthood. How I had been sent into the forest with just a knife and flint, and that I had survived and we would be fine. Suddenly, I heard the loud report of a slug thrower. The kids were wide awake again. Fear not. It was far away. Now go to sleep. Your mother and I will stand watch, I explained. Time passed, and I checked for a signal a few more times. None available, except for Terran. Once the children were fast asleep, Neva and I built a small fire and cuddled up next to each other. Despite being stuck in the wilderness, we felt at peace and secure in the knowledge that we would look back at this with fondness. We discussed routine matters, the status of our crops both for sale and our consumption, our children's education. Soon we would start survival training for both of them, but mostly we just enjoyed each other's contact. Neva was half asleep when I heard a vehicle approach us. The engine had more of a rumble to the high-pitched whine of our own. She woke up as I got up to get their attention. I couldn't make out much due to their lights, but I was confident they could see me waving my limbs. They came to a stop at a safe distance from me. You okay? They asked as they exited. I recognized their language instantly. Terran English. I felt my blood pressure drop. My family was out here alone with no way to call for help. Thinking fast, I came up with a plan. In my best English, I answered them. Yes, I am alone and lost. I was walking back to my family settlement, I answered, hoping my spouse would take the hint. Which way is it, and how far? We'd be happy to help. It can be dangerous to be alone out here, one of them answered in Cref. Almost 2 hours due east by vehicle, I responded. Dad, there's a car stuck over here. More Cref, a younger Terran shouted. Please, don't hurt us, I begged. We won't. You have the bond of our word, the older Terran said. What happened? A hornbuck ran out in front of us, a large male. I swerved to miss it, I replied. Did it have 4 primary antlers? The older one asked. Yes, you saw it? Yep, you may have heard the shot, My son and I were out hunting, but let's take a look at your car, he suggested. Back wheels are off the ground, no other apparent damage. I reckon we could easily pull them out, the younger Terran, maybe a human, stated. I was amazed and grateful that they were speaking to each other in Kreth. It did a lot to reduce my fear. Your car, your call. I can use my truck's chain to pull you out. Might damage your car a tad, or you can use our comm to call for help, and we'll be happy to wait with you, the older one explained. I could feel myself becoming less afraid. If you're willing, I would appreciate your assistance with recovery. Any body damage we can repair later, I answered. I saw both of them flash their teeth slightly in what we recognized as a smile. Gary, find an anchor point or two. I'll bring the truck over. I'm afraid I don't know your name yet. Mine's Mark, and this is my son Gary. If I could have you stand about here and make sure I don't end up flipped over, I'd appreciate it. He started pointing to the bank of the creek bed. My name is Royt. This is my spouse Never and my children, Tuck and Krev, are over there sleeping, I replied as I walked over to the place Mark had pointed at. He signaled for Mark to stop before he got too close. He then retrieved 2 sets of chains from a box mounted across his vehicle's open cargo area. I noticed Gary grabbed one and hooked both ends to tow points on my vehicle. He then grabbed another from his father and hooked it to the front of their vehicle and then to the chain. Right, if you'll make sure your family stay clear, then I'll need you in the driver's seat. I'll start pulling you out. When your wheels are on the ground again, engage in reverse slowly. Gary will be standing outside watching everything and yelling instructions as needed, Mark explained to us. Never and I took the children in their bundle off to the side and stayed with them. They never woke up. I activated the motors and placed it in low reverse. Dad, start. Royt, be ready, Gary yelled. I heard the engine of Mark's vehicle emit a low roar and felt the rear of mine lower and move backwards. I felt a small jolt as it impacted the soil. Royt, back up slowly, he yelled. Between Mark's efforts and my own, within seconds, we were all back on the road. I shut off my vehicle and got out. Thank you both so much. My family and I are in your debt, I exclaimed, bowing my center of mass. No worries at all, just trying to be good neighbors. Besides, we live for this stuff. You guys live on that farm in the shadow of a mountain east of here, right? He asked. Yes, we're growing julep trees, I answered. Told you they were raising those trees, Dad, Gary interjected. So they are. Right, we live about 10 kilometers from you. You owe us nothing. Odd as it may seem, this is something we enjoy, Mark stated. Still, thank you. I must admit I was afraid at first. There's quite a bit of history between us, I admitted. No, there's not much history between our families. At least not yet, I hope. The history you speak of is between governments. Governments we came here to get away from, to make a new beginning and hopefully new friends, Mark stated. You have made friends today, Mark and Gary. I'm also impressed with your knowledge of our language. You're quite fluent, Never said as she walked up to us. The children are asleep in the back seat. They never woke up. Some things never change. When Gary was younger, I swore nothing could wake him up. Also, it was a requirement to settle here, learning your language, that is. Hard to settle a world with people when you can't say hi to each other. I noticed Gary stored the chains back in the box they came from. Gary gave his father a knowing look. Barbecue? Gary asked, motioning toward us. I couldn't understand that word. I assume he was referring to a debt. Great idea, son. Right, in a couple of days we're going to cook and eat the hornbuck Gary shot. We will be honored to have your family over as our guests. We'd love to introduce you to some Appalachian and Earth foods. I was honored by this and couldn't speak. It would be our honor. Is there anything you need us to supply? Never asked. We've never had craft food. We'd love to try it if you're okay with that, Mark answered. We have a few dishes we can make I think you'll enjoy, Never replied. Yes, our day of renewal is approaching. A holiday in which we commit to new beginnings and put the past aside. I think this would be a great dedication of it, I stated. I'll have to research this holiday. I hope celebration with beer is appropriate. With that, Mark gave us the coordinates for his family's farm, and a way to reach us over both Terran and Kref networks. As they left, and I got back in the driver's seat, I thought to myself, perhaps war truly can end.